The Cat on Doverfjel. Well, it used to be named Uncle Halvar's place, but they call it now the Cat Place. On Doverhill, a mountain off in Sweden it is. Halfway up, about 3 hours it is. Well, Uncle Halvar, he was preparing for a good Yule. Good Yule being just as winter's coming, just around that time when you hang the holly over the hearth, and just around that time when the apples have started to sweeten, even if they've become a little wrinkled. And he was taking his bedding and his bed, and all the warm things you need to sleep, out to the barn where the Nissa sleeps and the cows and the goat. And that's where he heard his niece Lena say, "Hello, Uncle Halvar." And he turned around and looked for Lena, just like that. But Lena wasn't there. Lena was up there, 'cause she was riding a bear. She was riding a great, white, large, ferocious bear, a great big bear of the mountain. And she was riding it just like so, with one hand here and one hand there, and said, "Hello, Uncle Halvar. Can we stay for the night?" Uncle Halvar looked up at Lena and looked up at the bear, and, "Sure, Lena, I'm going out to the barn where the Nissa sleeps, for it's good Yule and the trolls are going to have a big stomp tonight." And she said, "Don't be silly, Uncle Halvar. I don't believe in trolls, and I'm going to have a good night next to the fireplace with my bear curled up under the table." So it was that Lena went into the good house with the bear, who curled himself under the dining room table, stuck out his shiny black nose and his 2 ears, and why, Lena, she took an old book off the shelf and curled up next to the fireplace, started reading, and soon enough she was sleeping. Come around midnight, there was a rustling in the forest. And first came out great-great-grandmother Troll. Oh, with her long nose to stir the stew for the troll stump, and she had her head under her arm to keep it out of the way, and she had great-great-grandfather on her back to keep him out of the way. And come the great-great-uncle Trolls to eat all the good stew that she'd made that evening. And come the Hildra with their long cow tails and their beautiful cow ears and garlands made up in their hair. Aye, and the Fossilman with his old violin to play for the troll stomp. Come the troll who lives under the troll bridge with his barnacles and a fish sticking out of one ear. And come the Nissa, 'bout knee-high is the Nissa. He lives in the barn, in the small places where you leave the bread and water. He looks after the animals, and if you misuse him, he'll kick you in the shin. Call me a liar if you don't. Well, it was all the trolls had come in, and the trolls started eating all the sausages and apples and pears and all the good things that Uncle Halvar had saved up over the harvest, and making quite a mess and a racket, until the little Nissa come over, and he sees with a sausage in his hand and an apple in the other. He sees 2 little ears come out and 1 little shiny black nose, and he's got one thought in his head. He jumps on that nose and tugs on those ears, and he's going, "Kitty!" But that was no cat. That was a great big bear, and the bear lifted up and the table fell aside, and he roared a mighty bear roar with great jaws and large claws. And all the trolls got really scared and frightened. And out came the troll who lives under the bridge, who doesn't like animals, and out came the little Nissa, who does like animals, but he's making an exception just this once. Well, out came the Hildra, running with their tails and garlands away, and off into the woods. And out came the great-great-uncles who'd had their fill of stew for that night, and great-great-grandmother with great-great-grandfather and her head tumbling after. Come out the Fossilman with his violin behind him, and all the trolls were gone. Well, Lena cleaned up the place and put the bear down with a few pats, and the next day took the bear down to the king who lived in the valley. But that's another story. It was the year after, when Uncle Halvar was preparing for good Yule again, when he saw 2 yellow eyes in the bushes, 'bout knee height, and 2 yellow eyes 'bout eye height, when 2 little eyes 'bout tree height. And he heard him say, "Uncle Halvar, we've got a question. Are you bringing your niece Lena and her cat this year?" Uncle Halvar thought about that. "Why, yes, I am. And her cat's had 7 little kittens, all bigger and fiercer than her." Well, the trolls thought about that for a second. "We're sorry, Uncle Halvar, but we won't be visiting you for good Yule this year." And that is the cat on Doverfjell.